Hey everybody, it's Rob. The devil is brilliant. He's evil, he's insidious, but he's brilliant. The popular conception is the devil has like these horns. He's got like a red face and a big cape and maybe a tail hanging out. So that, you're walking down Target's aisles and getting some cereal or whatever. You're like, hey, you're like the devil. Oh, no, don't mind me. I'm not the devil. Not at all. Dude, you got like a tail hanging out your cape. It's so obvious who the devil is. But maybe he's more insidious than that. The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 11, he says this. He says, no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. An angel of light means he looks good. It's deceiving because it looks good. Remember what we discussed about the two beasts in Revelation chapter 13? The first beast, I saw one of his heads as if it had been slain. That's the exact same language used to describe Jesus. This beast looks like it's Christ. Remember Jesus' words in Mark 13 and Matthew 24 and Luke 21? See to it that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name saying, I am he. They're going to look like Jesus. They're going to look good. Even the second beast, it says, I saw a second beast and he had two horns like a lamb and he spoke like a dragon. It's not a lamb, it's a dragon, but it looks good. So I know I said in the last video that was going to be the end of this particular series, but as I was thinking about this series, as I was editing some of the videos and posting them online and getting them all set, I began to realize, I think there's more I want to say. One of the things I want to say is, guys, gals, it's way worse than we think. It's way worse than we think. We got to wake up. We got to wake up. Again, let's go back to the book of Revelation. Chapter 12, at the end of the story in Revelation 12, it says the dragon was pursuing the woman. And it says in verse 17, the dragon was enraged with the woman, went off to make war with the rest of her children who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. There's a dragon. He's brilliant. He's insidious. He's the embodiment of evil, and he's chasing us. And I began thinking, I was even speaking with a pastor this morning about this, and I said, I don't think most Christians go about their day thinking, I better be careful about Satan deceiving me today. We don't think that we're the ones deceived. We think that they are the ones deceived. And that's the problem. So the first thing I want to do in adding this extra video is to say, folks, I think we need to realize it's way worse than we thought. And as I said throughout this series, if we don't think that we are the ones deceived or even possibly deceived, then we are in great danger. As I said before, in Revelation chapter 2, there's this church in Thyatira, and they have this prophetess, Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, but she teaches and leads my bondservants astray. And John's calling her out. But the church in Thyatira must have thought she was good. And I raised the question, what did they do with the book of Revelation when John gave it to them? Do they believe what John says? Oh, I guess we have been seduced. Oh, I guess we have been deceived. Hey, we got to get her out of here. Or do they go along and say, no, John's the false prophet? It makes you think of the prophets in the Old Testament. There's all these false prophets teaching false things. And the one prophet comes along, Amos. He's the wacko. It's easy to dismiss the wacko. They're saying stuff that no one believes. Everybody else is saying this. It's so easy to dismiss because we've been so overwhelmed by the propaganda of the empire. Now, as I was thinking about this, I was recently reading a book in which it was discussing Ida B. Wells. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Ida B. Wells, but she was one of the major voices in the early 1900s speaking against lynchings that were happening all across the country. Now, in the late 1880s, maybe 1880s or 1890s, somewhere around there, she began hearing about lynchings that were happening in various places throughout the South. But she was told, as everyone else was, that the lynchings occurred because a black man raped a white woman. And she said that she thought, well, it's justice. These white men are taking it into their own hands. They're getting the justice that they think they deserve to get. Oh, well. But then I believe in the early 1900s, a black man whom she knew was lynched. And she knew he didn't do what they said. And she was a journalist, and she spoke about this. And immediately she was threatened. They shut her place of work down. They threatened her with being lynched herself, and she escaped to the North. And I believe the story is she actually never went back to the South again. But while she was in the North, she began investigating some of the other lynchings. She thought, well, If this person was lynched and the charges against him weren't true, maybe the charges against other Black men are not true either. So she began researching. She found one Black man that was lynched, and he actually had consensual sex, but it wasn't rape, and it certainly wasn't worthy of being lynched. But then she found others who were lynched, and there's really no evidence that they did anything wrong at all. One man, in fact, was lynched because he said something polite to a white woman. Now, I think this is remarkable because it reminds us of the power of the empire. As I said before, when the empire, and I'm using empire for this larger term that include corporations and the corporate influence, the power of the empire would be the power of the nation. When we see wealth and power working together, I think we need to be on the alert. Doesn't mean it's always wrong. But when they're telling you, oh, these Black men deserve to be lynched because they committed rape against these white women, maybe people are going to take advantage of that. If you empower white men to lynch a Black man, and they can get away with it because they got away with it then, what's to stop other white men from lynching Black men who did nothing wrong? That's the danger. When wealth and power go hand in hand, we have to be careful. Now, one of the other reasons why I wanted to add this particular video is because I began realizing how often it is that we, myself included, we become so resistant to something that we don't believe in. Now, again, I'm going to say stuff, maybe now, maybe already, that you might not agree with, you might not like. And here's what I have to say to you. That's okay. We need to learn from one another, because if someone says something and we don't agree with them, at the end of the day, one of two things are going to happen. One is, well, I'm not going to agree with you, but I understand what you say and why you believe it. I understand your beliefs better. And now I can respect you more, and that helps us love our brothers and sisters, even if we don't agree with them, because we understand them. But secondly, maybe I'll come to believe that you're actually right. And all along, I was believing something that's a lie. Now, here's why that's so important. I've said before that we as Christians should be the most open-minded of all people, because we follow the one who is himself the truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He embodies the truth. Truth is embodied in him. All truth points to Christ. Therefore, we as Christians should be the most open-minded of all people, because all truth points to him, yet we are resistant. And I began noticing this, that when a point was made about this or a point was made about that people were becoming quickly resistant. So, for example, if we say, Jesus said, blessed are the poor. Oh, I know, Rob, but what he meant was poor in spirit. Actually, Matthew's gospel says poor in spirit, but Luke says poor. In fact, a few verses later, he says, and woe to you who are rich. We immediately go, what are you, a communist? We don't wrestle with what Jesus said and what the implications are. We immediately wonder, well, where's this going to take me? Is it going to take me somewhere I'm not comfortable going? Communism, socialism, something other than what I believe. You don't want me to become a Democrat or a Green Party, or I don't know what all the political parties in America are. Here's the deal. I am not a member of any political party. I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a capitalist. Well, I live in a capitalist society, so I guess that makes me a capitalist. I live in a democratic society. I guess that makes me a democratic person, a person who espouses the democratic principles. But Jesus's gospel and Jesus's kingdom transcends all of these, folks. It might have aspects of democracy. It might have aspects of this, might have aspects of that, might resemble the Democratic Party, might resemble the Republican Party, but it transcends all of them. Following Jesus will take us through all these paths. It doesn't mean that you can't be a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't mean you can't be any of these things. It just means that we need to be open to the truth and not so quick to resist. Now, what does this mean when it comes to other issues? Let me give a quick example of immigration. And again, we've had several live streams on immigration where we've tackled the issue more largely. I myself made a larger presentation on immigration. We've had several live streams where we interviewed scholars and practitioners. We've talked about this. So yeah, we need to have secure borders. Okay, great. But here's the danger. When you empower officials with weapons and handcuffs and authorities to arrest and detain anyone they so desire with impunity, and that's the danger in what's happening as I record in 2025. that ICE officials are being empowered to detain people with impunity, that is going to be abused. Just like Ida B. Wells found out, hey, wait a second, you're just lynching people because they're Black, not because they did anything wrong. I think what we're finding out is that ICE officials are detaining people just because of the color of their skin. And what happens is this. These stories are circulating everywhere. It's not hard to find them if you're in July, August, September 2025. ICE officials are detaining people because of the color of their skin. A person was just detained the other day as I'm recording this because of the color of his skin. He was born in the United States. I think it was Dallas, Texas, and he showed them his ID and they detained him for 2 hours because of the color of his skin. Now, when these stories are told, those who are supportive of the immigration movement are simply saying, well, okay, those are exceptions, and we dismiss them. And what I want to say is, regardless of your view of immigration, regardless of where you are with Trump's border policy, regardless, we need to say that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. You can't simply detain somebody because of the color of their skin. When they show you an ID, when they show you they're a legal resident, a citizen, you can't handcuff them and detain them. That's when we need to start. That's when we need to step up. Now, I'll give some more examples in the videos to come of where power and wealth have to be questioned. Even if I believe this is okay, I still need to speak up because that over there is not okay. I still believe this, but that instance is not okay. And it's up to God's people to say that's not okay.